Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday, October 7th, and I want to welcome you to the Wellness Enterprise Community Call. We're happy that you guys are here, and we are here to talk with you about all things subtle energy related, cosmic towers, water, whatever's on your mind. And a lot of the focus is the cosmic towers and questions that people have sent in previously. As many of you probably already know, Nico and James are on the road right now. They're staying in Portland today and having an event tonight. It's got a very good RSVP group. We're looking forward to seeing how tonight's call goes or presentation goes. And yeah, they're staying with one of our community members, Peter Cowan, who hosted me on the beginning of my road trip in July. He's a really sweet guy, and we're really thankful to be able to make connections like that and get out and see everybody. So we're happy that you're here. We do have some questions that were sent in ahead of time, and we welcome you to raise your hands at any point and jump in. And it's more fun to do live questions than the ones that have been sent in before, but they're all good. So feel free to raise your hand at any point. And Nico, I don't know if you want to say anything generally about the road trip or anything else that's going on before I ask you the first question, but if you do, here's your opportunity.
No, it's just fun to meet all the different people. And then, these road trips are not just about the Cosmic Tower. What we get a lot is that it's nice for people that are on the same page to connect. And for me, it's fun to figure out about all the other projects that are going on in communities like in Nevada City. We met with Jeffrey and Swirl, and then figured out how much I had in common with Jeffrey and how much of the same people that we know. And then we also met with Justin, who's a water scientist. And oh, hi, Amelia. And what he's been up to. I mean, they're going to start a project there in 6 months to really provide like healthy healing type water for free to the community. And we didn't have much of a chance to go into depth, but yeah, of course, we want to be a part of that. And I think initiatives like that, where, for example, healing water would be provided for free to any community member. And then just also considering what water does beyond the physical and the energetic and the consciousness, and knowing that even the lakes and the rivers hold a big part in our awakening and what's coming on the planet. And having our own group of people that work with the cosmic towers and biogeometry to uplift lakes and rivers in the United States. Mike Terakov, John Head, and we're actually extending that into other projects that I'll be talking more about when it's time, but really looking at shifting things collectively and for the better of the planet versus everybody being on their own and trying to protect themselves from EMF and from this and from that, to really deal with things systemically and to help uplift nature and the consciousness and coming together on that. That's what I really feel is the direction for the planet, and how we can profoundly shift things when everybody just stays in this like, and I understand it, right? I just want to protect my family, and it never addresses nature. It never addresses the collective. So yeah, I'm just excited to find out that there's so many people working in different areas, whether it's water, whether it's EMFs, whether it's growing food, and working together and getting those people together to shift the planet. That's one of the things that really excites me.
There's definitely a greater sense after starting these road trips in June of a collective coming together and creating coherence in the world, and it's really joyous. I just went back to Boulder, Colorado, where this West Coast trip started, and I was there last week. Four nights. Let's see. Got some background noise going here. If you're not talking, if you just go ahead and mute yourself, that's great. We love hearing from you, and we don't want background, so I just muted most everybody. And so I went back to a place called the Star House, which was very close to the location where we launched from in Boulder, and spent some time with the founder. And um, so the Star House was founded in 1990 and has been evolving on 35 acres of land and then a couple of other additional parcels right next to it. And they started building this extraordinary structure with sacred geometry and alignment on the planet. And so they have 12 huge stones around the outside of the building that represent the 12 signs of the zodiac. And they have the signs of the zodiac inside too. And inside the building, they went around the property and they asked the trees which ones wanted to be inside and which ones wanted to represent different signs. And then they cut them and they put them inside in exactly the same orientation that they were at when they were outside. It was a real honoring of these trees. It's really extraordinary. So when you walk into the space, you can just feel that the space creates something. When I went back the second time, I got to go for a ride in the double tetrahedron swing, and it made me really quiet. And I stayed that way for like an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Wow.
It was really fun, and yeah, the space is really pretty extraordinary. So they realized that the cosmic towers are the perfect partner for their hybrid model, which is they're trying to transfer the templates of this extraordinary space into people's homes, and they see the alignment. So they are the last step is the board of directors just needs to approve they're getting a large tower, and then we'll be sending that off to them. But then they'll be talking to people about the towers and inviting the tower network to carry the templates of the Star House into people's lives. It's going to be really powerful. So seeing those type of things emerge is really super fun. And Nico's had a whole month of that, so it's been pretty cool. All right, Nico, I'm not going to start with the first box with the first question because the person who asked that isn't on yet, and I think she might come, and I'd rather ask her when she's here live. And so
Sure.
I know some of these questions came from somebody that's here, but it's going to be beneficial to everyone to hear these answers. So how long does it take the 75 after initial setup to reach its full range or strength?
Yeah, it's about a week to 2 weeks, depending on the environment that you're in, and just so people understand that concept better, like why wouldn't it not be straight like at full like strength? Why does it take some time to build up? And that's at least because it comes activated, right? And when you put it in your house, I mean, for every place I've seen, it immediately covers the whole house, and it's just a matter of how far is it going to go out. And the way I understand that is that certain things it only has to clear once, while other things it will have to clear continuously. So an example of that would be like we're here in this place in Portland. If somebody had an argument here, for example, in this space, that imprint of that energy stays in the ether until it's cleared. That's why if you buy a house that people have lived in previously, that's why you always have that house cleared out. Or if you go to a hotel, you always clear it because people's detrimental thoughts and emotions actually leave an imprint in the ether. But those are things that only need to be cleared once, unless the person is still there that is having those thoughts, right? So those are examples of things that would only need to clear one time, and then examples of things that it needs to clear continuously, or things like, for example, 5G or your Wi-Fi that's on, right? It's continuously reinforced. So I'd say it's about, a week to 2 weeks for most towers, like a 75, like a personal tower at home, say about 10 days. Where I have it seen being slower than that is for the really large towers, and I think that has to do with their field being that strong, and they take sometimes months to build up. And it's also a balance to where, the highest energy immediately might not always be beneficial for everybody in that area. So I've seen them, build up in a way to where maybe people can handle it better, or things that are, more appropriate for people and living organisms in that, you know, in that range.
Great, thanks, Nico. I just want to pause for a second and see if anybody wants to go deeper or question that or comment on that. You know, part of the reason is I'm just newly focused even more acutely on assisting us with understanding and embodying, making a difference with the towers in our lives. And you know, I've heard Nico in his presentations on the road trip talk about this idea of an argument happening somewhere and it being there, but he, until last week, he was the only person I'd ever heard talk about that. And then, you know, as serendipity would have it, it seems to happen more and more. The more I carry my tower with me and live inside of it, it happened again last week. And so I had the experience of another person talking about it, and it was very obvious to me that that information was being sent to me in a way that would have me see, like, this really is happening, and more people are becoming sensitive in that way. So I want to echo it and see if anybody wants to ask any question further on it or comment. Just make space for that. I'm not looking for anything in particular from anybody. Yeah, Randy. I just asked you to unmute, and if you know how to click your unmute button, there you go. Hi.
Perfect. Nico, Randy from Silver City, just weeks back here.
Hey, Randy, good to see you.
Yeah,
yes,
very happy to have the what is it, 15-inch tower, of course,
yeah,
with
the 35
the small portable that went with me to the West Coast, so I kept that rolling. But you know, actually, I'm interested in, not as a doubter whatsoever, but when you talk about that buildup of what it takes, is there anything that I can resource for the science of that? Why would that take that time? I don't mean that adversarially. I'm trying to understand the mechanism of what that science is a little bit more. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that's being, I mean, I studied a lot of like biogeometry, right? And it's something mentioned in pretty much all the spiritual traditions in general that you know, you want to clear a space, right? If you're a healer, for example, it's very common. You clear your healing space first, right? To make sure there's no residue from previous sessions there. That's a very common practice, right? Also, in like the more native traditions, or people using sage, you know, or other ways to clear a space. That's very, you know, those are very well-known practices. Sorry, you wanted to interject something?
What I meant more of was, and that's absolutely true, and I love that side of things. So, of course, clearing space is wonderful, whether it be smudging or actually having someone do that who is very experienced in clearing space. But I was talking about the towers themselves. You said took some gearing up, so to speak, once they're set up. I maybe misunderstood that or whatever, but so what would be the science behind that being necessitated? What is it that it builds up?
Yeah, I was getting there. So basically, the towers come in with a certain amount of energy, right? And it's not like the tower's energy gets stronger in a sense. It is like, think of this being a bubble, right? That's immediately there. And then the tower, in a sense, working outward, and all the distortions pushing inward, right? It's going to find like an equilibrium. And so, yeah, thank you for asking that question so I can elaborate a bit more on this. So the inventor would also talk to me about it being like this bubble. And then, you know, I would say it's probably already like 80% there in a way when you get it. It depends on the environment. Every environment is different, but just see it finding this equilibrium between the constant push of the distortion inward and it in a way creating a space outward, and then you know, finding that equilibrium. And from a more, you know, scientific point of view, from the different distortions, that's something I get from biogeometry, right? Where we talk about not only electrosmog, about the secondary effect of man-made EMFs, but we also talk about mental and emotional smog. Right, so we measure, and actually emotional smog or that emotional imprint is one of like the stickiest energies. They actually teach about that in the biogeometry class, that there are particular emotional planes. If we're balancing out the space or something else, we definitely want to focus on this particular emotional layer because that energy is so sticky. Right, and the same with mental smog or like detrimental thoughts. I mean, they're all connected. Right, so that's where I explained that from, that it takes a while to find that equilibrium, which is different from thinking, oh, the tower is like powering up in a way. You know what I mean? It's just it has
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
energy and then it finds an equilibrium. I hope that explains.
Oh, it explains it very well in the sense that the mechanism itself, when you talk about biogeometry, nothing's fast food. To create that equilibrium, there's, so to speak, its inherent algorithm, so to speak, that it has to do its work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is. It's even like the laws of physics, like even when you have water pressures and fluid dynamics and how everything always finds a balance in nature, right? Like you have the communicating barrels in physics, when they're connected, they're always going to like level out. Everything always naturally seeks a balance.
Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. It's good to see you again.
Thanks, Randy. Mari, I've got your questions here. So that you typed in, and now that you're here, I was going to ask them for you, but you're also welcome to just unmute and have the dialogue, whatever works best for you. So I'll start, or you can unmute anytime and jump in if you prefer that. So Mari said, if I get the 75 for inside my house and the 35, can I set the 35 in my car and give it a whole seat in the back seat and put a seat belt around it? Mari, what I like to do with the tower is I like to take a reusable shopping bag and hang it off my headrest behind the seat where I'm driving, and it weighs down in there really well. So that's how I do a 35, and if I do a 75, which I've done mobile as well, I'll take a yoga bolster and I'll put it on the floor, and then I'll lean it against the back of the seat, and I'll take the sash from my bathrobe and tie it to the headrest like that. So that's how I've done it. Nico, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so what I do for a 75 is I'll take the seat belt and I'll click it in, and then I actually extend it and then wrap it around like the top, so it's snug in there. That's how I've done it.
So like a double wrap of the seatbelt, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Cool.
and then usually, when I'm traveling with towers that big, it means we got tons of other stuff in the car, so can kind of put stuff next to it so it doesn't fall over. But I mean, the key thing is you want the tower to stand up, and you don't want it to fall over. So yeah. So the 35. Sorry, go ahead.
So I'm new to, well, I've known about it for a few years, but I'm finally feeling like it's time to buy one or more. And so my question also has to do with like, which towers are the better to buy? Like, I live in a small house, and so I'm willing to spend more money on towers and stay in my small house and make it, quantum than to like buy a bigger house on stuff. So I was even thinking about maybe trying to get a 220, but then I read on the website, because I tried to read the website, the 75 seems more like what I need for my personal energy. And then but I also want to travel with one, but the little travel guy, I don't want to have to keep in my purse because I have medical issues, which is, when you have medical issues, you've been thinking a lot of bad thoughts for a very long time. You've been in a vibration that I need to get my vibration higher. So anyway, if y'all could just tell me the little bit about what you think is the best way to approach purchasing for both house. And I thought about the 35 because I could take it in the car, and then wherever I'm at, it's not going to be more than 600 feet away from my car. But so that was kind of where I was coming up with that. And my camera's over here, but you guys are on a big screen right here. That's why I look funny.
Yeah, no worries, no worries, Mary. Well, yeah, if you're talking about a 220, right? That's like the 220 is really to help the environment, and then you're gonna be in you're gonna have a very strong bubble, just way more than your house, your entire community, and all that too. So there it's a matter of like, yeah, you want to have one that can help you with your personal, right? Your personal development and your personal healing. So then a 35 and a 220 would be a great match because you're maxed out as far as the life force that you're sitting with the 220, and then the 35 is more to set your intention with for your personal healing. If you take the 220 out of the picture, right, then the 75 is 6 times more powerful than the 35. So, and what was the other question?
I think, oh, no,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, well, I think it depends, Mari. Like if you're most focused on your personal health, then 75-35 is probably going to be a really great contribution to your life. And if you choose to be motivated toward nature and toward all of us, then 220-35 would be the combination. You follow me there?
Yeah, and maybe I start with the 75 and the 35 because I am focused on my health and myself. But one thing I was thinking, and this sounds horrible, I know, but like I've always wanted to be one of those people that has the energy and the time to do more social, more outreach, more community service. And I was like, well, this isn't community service, but if I bought one for the 220s, that would be doing something for the environment anyway. I mean, it would be doing something for the community, even though I'm not putting my own physical, because I have, trouble doing physical stuff. So I kind of felt like that too.
I would see
But
that as community service. Like I think that's a very selfless act. And we've been doing this for 2.5 years now, and there's certain people that have the combination of finances and desire to make a difference for all of us. And it's not everybody, and so if you have the finances that you can spend that kind of money and dedicate it, I mean, everybody within 500 miles, right, 250 miles in each direction is going to benefit that. It also helps to strengthen all the smaller towers in the area. And there are quite a number of little towers in Georgia. I feel like there are a bunch of people from Atlanta where I was over the weekend, and it feels like a lot of interest from that area in energetic upgrades. So
Yeah.
we all serve our communities in different ways, and as we're witnessing the strengthening of this network and seeing more coherent conversations, it gives such hope to people. People feel so alone these days, and they feel so much chaos. And when you come together with people and feel harmony, it changes everything. It really does. It like gives us hope for a future. So it just depends where your motivation is. There's like getting a 75 helps people with 10 football fields in every direction from your spot. Like that's amazing. It's a huge contribution to the world already. So there's no pressure for either one. There's just like information to help you discern and like feel what's in your heart.
thank you very much. All that was so helpful.
Nice. Awesome. In case anybody's missing the dialogue going on in the chat, there was a question about a recently found camera bag. I see you, Randy. We'll come to you in just a sec. There's a recently found camera bag, and it fits the 35 really super well. One of our osteopaths in Boulder had it and showed us, and it's amazing. So if you want a case for carrying a 35 around, that link in the chat is the one. And if you're watching the replay, you can always email support@thewellnessenterprise.com, and we'll be happy to send that out to you. Randy, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, this is my first time with you guys talking the nomenclature of the numbers. This is the mini. This is not the 35, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, you have the 35. That's the other one.
The bigger one.
Yeah, and that's
The
the
next-
mini, correct.
This is the mini. The
Yeah.
next one up is a 35.
Yeah.
Yeah, the numbers is how tall it is in centimeters. So 35 centimeters, 75 centimeters, and then the one you're holding is the mini for travel.
Gotcha. Okay.
Great.
So you're
So-
talking about the 35, which I speak of as being what, 15 inches tall, and you're talking about it centimeters. That's good for personal, if it's right in the same room, you're getting quite a powerful coverage.
That's what it's designed for. You know, Harald went through a series of 15 centimeter and 25 centimeter towers, and he was phasing those out as his life came to an end, because he had decided that the 35 is the one that is needed in a home. It's the base unit for a home. It's not too small or too big. It's like, that's the one for a home. And then some people really recognize that this subtle energy conversation is more important than all the other places we spend money, and they make it a priority to get the 75 because they want something that's 6 times stronger. So that's, you know, wonderful to get, and if you have the resources, that's what you get. But getting a 35 is fantastic, and that's what it's designed for. Okay, you good? Okay, thanks. All right, Nico, is it advisable or possible to travel with the 75? This question is related to vehicular travel only, and to keep the cosmic tower snug inside the vehicle at all times during travel. My idea is to take it during our forest school expeditions in large parks, in which we hike on miles of long trails and find it difficult to keep children within an area reachable with the smaller, more portable towers.
Yeah, so I think we kind of covered it with the last question, that, you know, you have your 75 stand up, and then I don't know about keeping the mini within the range of it. Sometimes there's some confusion with people that they think that the mini needs to be charged or be close to like the 75, you know, but that's like not the case. The mini works on its own, right? And it doesn't need to sit close to your 75 or within, you know, to charge it back up. So it works on its own. It has its own toroidal field. But yeah, I think it's great taking it into nature. I always, you know, whenever I do, I always take my towers and then set the intention to, you know, assist and support nature wherever it can reach as we're traveling.
Nice. Andrea asked a question in the chat about if you live in a building with steel, whether that would like prevent the scalar waves from going out, or the longitudinal compression waves from going out. Why don't we answer that not just for steel, but are there any materials that you would be concerned about, or are they all the same when it comes to longitudinal compression waves going through them?
Yeah, I mean, so the scalar waves, longitudinal compression waves, you know, they have no issue, you know, going through steel and through brick. The only thing I would have to check is like full aluminum around it, but I can't really comment on that yet. I gotta do some testing with that, because I know, if you know the work of Kozyrev in Russia, you know, he was creating these Kozyrev mirrors that I believe could actually shield longitudinal compression waves. But in like normal circumstances, normal buildings, like no, right? This was a very particular application to actually shield time in a way, and they were doing telepathy experiments with these Kozyrev mirrors. But yeah, for normal building materials and you know, normal structures, yeah, it's not an issue, and they will transfer to the outside.
How about transferring to the inside? Hi, everybody. Good to see you.
Hi, Andrea.
I got my 75, and I live in a Quonset hut. That's what I asked. This really strong steel round building, and so I have my room that I'm sitting in, and the tower is with me actually on the outside. The room is connected to, it has a doorway to go into the house, the main house, but it's sitting outside. And I was wondering if going inside, would there be a restriction?
No, it works both ways.
Okay.
And scalar waves and longitudinal compression waves, they're very different in a way. Their properties are very different, and in a sense they almost travel outside of like space-time. If you see Constantine Miles work on it, they're very different type of wave. But yeah, both ways.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good to see you again.
Good to see you guys again.
It's so fun to have you guys show up on the screen and we know your office or we know your home. You know, we certainly know Andrea's town. She lives right near Horseshoe Bend, which is one of the most beautiful places. It's in Page, Arizona. And yeah, it's just great to see you here. And thanks for inviting us to come see you and then showing up. It's really fun for me. I've read that the cosmic tower will not structure water which is under pressure. Does this include water that is stored inside a water tower or a water tank? And how much pressure can the water handle before it becomes unstructured again? The question is related both to city water storage and a private household rainwater collection system designed to run directly into a home pressure tank.
Was that it? Okay.
More, but I didn't want to overwhelm you there. So
no. So yeah, if you look at water under pressure in a copper pipe, where do you see that in nature? Nowhere. Right. And Harold would talk about how the cosmic tower will cut up like the water structures. And if it's under a lot of pressure, confined in a space, it doesn't have room to work with. So he would always talk about how you open the faucet and it comes back in a natural type of flow state, how it would structure it immediately. If you're talking about like a water tower, typically the water that's sitting on top there is not pressured, right? It's the altitude difference that then creates the pressure. And then I don't know what pressure really, it's something would have to test, but I think the most important thing is that once you release it again in its natural state, it gets pressured and it gets energized and the life force gets put back in.
yeah, I think we can like intuit a little bit on that. Like if you picture like being put in a closet that's exactly the size of your body with no room to move, like that's gonna feel awful. And you know, we're water, and water in a long straight pipe that's shut off is gonna feel the same way. But if you start that water moving again, that's when it begins to have natural properties again. I was taught this by a farmer 10 years ago who had a 1,000-foot run of pipe, and the general rule of thumb in the industry is if you put something like an aqua energizer on a long straight pipe, the water will stay structured for 300 yards. And I asked him, I was like, why are you getting one device for your 1,000-yard run? And he said, because I know it's going to structure my whole farm over time. Like every time I turn my irrigation system on, there's going to be some structured water that goes out, and there's going to be structured water that's moving within that pipe. And that I had other insights about that back in 2013 when I was using only a structured water device on my shower, and yet the water out of my kitchen sink was coming out structured. And I was like, well, how is that happening? Well, when you're running water through the shower, it's going down and out through all the pipes, and that house came to be impacted by that. And I had an instance where I went away for a while, so there was no water running, and I came back and I went to the water in my kitchen sink, and it was horrible. I was like, what happened? Oh, it lost that movement. So the more the movement, the better. Water doesn't want to be trapped. Nobody wants to be trapped. And if we get it moving and flowing, then it's going to be more natural. Let's see if this takes us any further. Will the water receive any benefit while it is stored in the tank? I feel like the answer to that is yes. You know, because not all of the water is under pressure. What do you think, Nico?
Yeah, I mean, if it's sitting in a tank, there was a lot in that question. We talked about pressure tanks, but let's just say it's in a regular like reservoir and not under pressure in a tank. Yes, then that water will, get structured in there, and also it will get cleared, right? So you could even make the argument, because I see in the chat, I'm gonna roll that in this as I'm talking. So if you live near a water tower for the town, yes, it can affect that. So let's say you have a 75 and the water tower is like pretty close, that whole reservoir gets structured. And then there's also, so it will get cleared. So when it then goes in the pipe, right, at least it goes in being cleared, but then it's going to pick up, it's going to lose its structure and also going to pick up things that it meets along the way, right? But I think there's still so much more to water that we don't understand. I mean, Gerald Pollack talks about Ford phase water. I think water, like multidimensionally, like connected to what the Taoists call the primordial fog. I think there's so much more to it, to where I know that if there's like structured water, it does affect more than just where it lands. It even that effect, right? Because you have to think of all water being connected, maybe not physically, but at some level, all water being connected. So like if you have a big water reservoir, like in a water tower, and that gets structured, I absolutely think that there is effects beyond just like the physical water and the energy that it gives off.
Yeah, I think it's this balance between harmony and chaos, right? So in the tower, it is going to be affected. And, you know, typically to get out of a tower, just coming down the length of the tower itself, you're coming through a long straight pipe, and then you're probably going at a right angle and starting distribution. I don't think it takes much to degrade back to water that has been captured and held in darkness and not able to move freely the way it wants to. So, you know, the best solution is to have a strong network of the largest towers across the country, so that we've you know, got that backdrop of towers working all the time on harmony, and then individually we have one. And you know, it doesn't have to be every home, but if it can be a lot of them, I think that's how we get the most harmonic field, the strongest. Will it be possible for the cosmic tower to perform to a higher level strength if the surrounding environment has been corrected with biogeometry? For example, the Degler cell towers throughout our city are receiving correction, and the home with the 75 is emitting strong centering life energy quality, and all earth lines and sources of EMF are harmonized to emit BG3 with no detrimental energies. I've measured astounding results in the water itself, keen to extend the effects to as many homes and to as much nature as possible. And I really appreciate where you're coming from in these questions.
Yeah, I love that question. The person's right on my page. I'm the same way, and especially, I mean, think about. I mean, maybe if we can simplify it, think about every distortion in your environment taking up a little bit of the energy of the towers to take it to harmonize that. So anything you deal with through biogeometry or in another way, the tower doesn't have to worry about in a way, or it doesn't have to harmonize. So it can focus, it can appropriate that energy elsewhere, or it can even like expand its range. And clearly this person has a biogeometry background. So you can even play with using biogeometry things like on top of the tower, like I've done. That's you, Michelle, right? Yeah, I think you were even in my class because I seem to remember you. Yeah. We were in class together. I was like, wow, somehow your backgrounds and you looked familiar. I was like, I didn't recall you being on the Cosmic Tower call, and now I remember we were in the advanced class together, and then because our names are so close together, initials, we always ended up in the small group together. So yeah, absolutely play with it. So I do the same thing. I use the you know, the biogeometry to harmonize, and then play with putting things on top of the tower. I will send you some more information. I think I already did. We have a bunch of biogeometry people that work on, you know, the bigger questions, right? Dealing with the lakes and the rivers, and the EMF on a more, should I say, on a more holistic level. And what we do there is we actually use biogeometry principles to create certain symbols that then will even amplify and even strengthen the effects of the towers. But some things you can work with is your subplanes clearing card, putting that on the tower. and the stand, the biogeometry stand, the space harmonizer, and even the cube. Put it on your tower, see what it does, measure it. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with the biogeometry, because, and I think because of it, I think because they're both natural in a way and nature's principles, and that's why I think they play so well together. Biogeometry just comes at it from a slightly different angle.
Yeah, Jordan's experiences with biogeometry, a 35 and a 75 and the home shield together in her home, and she says she could feel a positive energy shift with the addition of each device. They have different effects.
Yep.
Thanks for kicking that in, Jordan. Karen, thanks for raising your hand. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm sorry I had to pop off a little bit, so I'm going to track back to the conversation that Nico was talking about, healing on the emotional level. I had an instructor one time that said that the root cause of many things is the spiritual level. And I was just wondering if you could talk to that a little bit, because I'm getting kind of confused about the two. What's the difference?
Yeah. In the end, depends what you determine spiritual. In the end, everything is spiritual or nothing is spiritual. I think if you make the distinction between physical and spiritual, we're already lost. It's all one and the same energy, right? So, and you know that well, that I've dealt a lot with, like the mental level, the subconscious level, emotional clearings, and so to simplify it, I believe every dis-ease, every unease comes from us like not truly being ourselves, who we are, like at our blueprint, and you feel like I cannot be like this, I cannot be like that, and you suppress that, or you try to be more like this and you're forcing it when it's not coming natural. All of that creates unease in your being. So from a biogeometry point of view, like if you talk about like the spiritual planes, it's not like and it depends how you break things up, right? It's all one energy. Spiritual to one, the spiritual plane means something different than another. So we talk about like the archetypal planes, spiritual planes in biogeometry, and we don't talk about like something being wrong there in a sense or out of balance, but our connection to it being less than than it typically is. So to put it in my terms, and everybody's going to use different terms for that, I think the ultimate, the most healing thing, the most powerful thing you can do is connect to your own, I call it source connection within, and just being in connection with that, and like just really getting out of the way, right? Ultimately, it's all source. All the balancing that happens, everything that's created is all this source energy. So if you could just make it as simple as keep your mind and your emotions, all of that out of the way, and just letting those pass by, and just being deeply rooted, being deeply connected to source, I believe is like the ultimate healing. I mean, the ultimate self-healing that you can have. But so why do I teach all the other stuff? Why did I learn all the other stuff? Because saying, just don't interfere, just be connected with your source connection can be the hardest thing for human doings, right? Because we're always looking at doing things and changing things. But I think ultimately, if you can just be connected with the source, yes, at that level, I think that's the ultimate healing level, if you want to call it that. But I also teach the other stuff, and I've also used the other things to kind of help build the capacity to get there. But now, for the most part, when we talk about, for myself, emotional and other clearing, absolutely correct. I just, relax and just be, connected to that source connection that's already there. I think that's the most powerful thing you can do. I hope that answers your question.
Oh my God, that was amazing. Thank you, Nico, for the clarity. I really appreciate it. And second question is, so I've just beginning to start to put things on top of my tower, and then I totally forget about it. What is that all about? It's like, I'm looking for the stuff. It's like to charge things. I was like, where did I put that thing? But it's like, it disappeared from like this realm or something.
Well, it must be something good you put on there, because from my experience, if you put on something on there that the tower doesn't really like or doesn't really resonate, you're just gonna be like, oh, I gotta take that off there.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's doing something. Okay. Awesome.
Mm.
Good to know. That's it. Thank you. Great to see you, Nico.
Good
Hi,
to see
everybody.
you too,
Thank you.
Karen.
Thanks, Karen. Is it possible to use biogeometry in conjunction with the Cosmic Tower to harness the 5G, 4G radio waves and emit the Cosmic Tower field wherever these carrier waves are present?
So that's basically kind of talking about like hijacking those carrier waves, I think. Yeah, it's something we're working on. I'm not gonna say too much about it yet, but I would really love for Starlink, for all of that to be harmonized and sending down beaming down healing energy. It's something, we're considering, and we're working with a group on that. I just didn't have much time to focus on it with this road trip, but yeah, absolutely. And I love that way of thinking. Like most people know by now, I don't like to fight what's out there. I believe whatever you fight, you make stronger. So I just look at more of these. I used to get upset, right, about chemtrails and 5G and this and that, but I'm not falling into that trap again. So now I just look at it like, oh, you guys are putting carrier waves out there. Well, thank you. Let's put something else on it that's beneficial for life on the planet versus that takes the life force away.
Okay, I have received insistent urges to bring a big Cosmic Tower to Michigan. I've seen on the map that Michigan is pretty well covered by neighboring states and Canadian large towers, but do we not yet have one of our own? I feel the thick fog of oppression over Flint and Detroit are especially noxious. How can I help to bring this to reality?
Yeah, I mean, and it's true. Like, if you look at that area, it is covered by other big towers that are not in the location. But that's just one aspect. It's not like a city like Detroit, one big tower would clear all of it completely or harmonize it completely, right? Even though the ripples can go out that far, think of every tower bringing in a certain amount of harmonizing energy, and then maybe the distortion is like this, right? And you might need 20 or 30 of them to get everything harmonized. And then I think there's also something to be said about like a cosmic tower being in a location and then consciously people working consciously with it, right, for their environment and their community, and simply even that shift in consciousness to where we're like, okay, not the people on this call, but so many people out there, are still in this victim mentality of like, oh, all this stuff is being done to us, and we're such little beings, and we have no power, and we're never going to be able to shift all that, all this internal limiting beliefs that keep us trapped. I just like it when people are saying like, hey, we're powerful beings. Let's all, come together and let's start working with what we have now and harmonize it, knowing that as that happens, it changes the consciousness on the planet. And as the consciousness changes, new solutions come in.
I just dropped a link in the chat. It's the new Cosmic Tower page on the Wellness Enterprise, and it has the map of the large towers on it. And one of the large towers that was added as a result of the road trip was Wisconsin.
Awesome.
And you'll see that Michigan is really well covered now. The overlap is much better than it was prior. So anytime you guys want to check out the large tower map, that link in the chat is the way to go. And if you're watching the replay, you can just click on the Cosmic Tower in the headings of the wellnessenterprise.com and just scroll down and you'll see it there. But it's pretty cool to see how our network is strengthening. We're really starting to cover in all the places. All right, that was all the prepared questions. So this is your moment to raise your hand or unmute yourself and jump into the conversation, because we're going to wrap up as soon as you guys have asked all your questions. So anybody want to there is Joanne from Santa Cruz. Joanne, welcome. I didn't get the opportunity to go on the second part of the trip, so it's a pleasure for me to see you showing up from one of our stops, and just want to give you a really warm welcome. Thanks for being here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Patrick. Yes, I wanted to get in when it started at 12, but I could not find the link that James had sent me. I found all the other links for other things, Cosmic Tower, but anyways, I did get it. And my question is, our group has been working in Santa Cruz County for a long time, trying to, and we're just the opposite of what Nico said, but talking with the supervisors about the 5G and all the radiation, and and we know that America has 1,000 times more radiation than the next country down, Japan, 24/7. We've had a lot of building biologists come speak to us, and one of our doctor engineers, so we've learned a lot over the years. The other problem we are having here, and I don't know if Nico can speak to this, is on top of all the different towers and antennas, they're trying to install 3 different BESS sites. These are lithium battery storage sites, one behind the hospital, and these are thermal runaway, one across from the high school, and one in Watsonville in the agricultural area where it's going to, when they catch fire, not if, it will ruin everybody's agricultural heritage, their family's heritage. And we can't talk sense into them. We know that they have sodium batteries that are coming online that are much safer. Even iron batteries are a little safer. But this is very dangerous. And can Nico talk to those lithium batteries? And will the Cosmic Tower, because when they do blow, that the heavy metals scatter for 50 miles in each direction from those facility sites. And, can he speak to that with the Cosmic Towers or anything else he would like to add?
Hi, Joanne. It's good to see you again. And I remember you and your friends with your EMF. And let me be clear, right? I think it's great to inform people about the dangers and to create more awareness and do our best, to talk to communities. But, and like, I haven't looked into like all like the lithium the sides that you're talking about, so I'm just going to talk generally about it. What does the lithium industry, what do these batteries support? More electric cars, right? And electric anything. And that's just a terrible idea in general. We have global warming, and now we're going to go to electric everything. I mean, a 5-year-old understands that we're basically turning the world into a microwave. We're putting more waves out there. What do more waves create in the ether? They create more warming up, right? So it's just a terrible idea, beyond the fact that we've had free energy for over 100 years. Nikola Tesla figured this out. I believe we're always gonna have an issue simply because of how we generate energy. We're cannibalizing the earth. We're not tapping straight into source energy, and we're not following nature's laws and nature principles in our energy creation. Whether it's coal, whether it's nuclear, we're cannibalizing the earth, right? And everything is connected. So I'm really looking forward to where we will have solutions where we're not cannibalizing the earth and basically taking our mother's life force away and then sell it to her cells, which are all of us. In exchange, we get a little bit of our life force back for everything that we exchange. So I think that whole paradigm will change. And as we become more conscious, that will change. If we really look at, and I don't know if your question, what if one of those batteries blows up and everything that it puts out in the environment, can the cosmic towers help with that? So the general principle there is like, if you have a bunch of big towers, like absolutely, right? I mean, we have the reports from the building biologists in Germany with the nuclear sites, right? So things like that can be addressed, to where toxins, I mean, if you remember from the talk, on the torsion level, really on the subatomic level, all have this counterclockwise spin, and that spin can be changed to harmonize or to take the effects away. Now, I have to look more into those facilities that you're talking about, but if your question is if a whole one like that blows up, I don't know what we're dealing with as far as how many heavy metals would be released at once, right? There's also that effect. So one tower probably would not be able to harmonize like all that, and there would absolutely be some fallout from that. But in general, from any new things that are being added, whether they're toxic or whether they're radiation or electromagnetic based, the towers can help to harmonize that. But it's all going to be a matter of how much energy, how much distortion is released at once, and what's the capacity we have to harmonize in that area. So
And Nick, I just want to add, we just found out most recently, those battery facilities that they're trying to put all over the world, and you can read about the thermal energy and the burning, they're really to promote the AI, because the AI takes a lot of electricity, so much electricity. They're not telling us this, but we're finding this out. And anyway, and also, right, all those EV cars are very high electromagnetic fields inside them. People are using their tri-field meters, and it's registering very high radiation. And we're, like you said, we're microwaving ourselves.
Yes, and so yeah, the AI, I do know. I used to run data centers at Procter & Gamble. I do have an idea of how much energy computing power takes. And that's why I also said the thing I brought up about how we generate power, that's why I don't think we could ever have like a really benevolent AI if we're feeding it corrupted power. But that's a whole different that's a whole different thing. But what I do know is that free energy has been there, and has been there for a long time. We've known how to do it. If you go back to the Egyptians, clearly they had, I'm sure they had free energy, but they wouldn't even go to electricity, but they would tap straight into the life force, right, which powers everything. And that's how I believe we're meant to operate, else we would have come with a plug that we have to plug in every day. No, we're also powered by source and in alignment with nature. But ultimately, Joanne, I think it's all about the consciousness shifting, like the collective as a whole. Because I mean, look at why, like, even the electric vehicles, why is there so much more being built? Well, because people are crazy enough to buy them and use them, right? But today that people become aware of this, of how disastrous it is for your health and also for the environment, and people just say one day we're going to stop buying them, right? I think those industries will change quickly. And so yeah, thank you for what you're doing to bring the awareness to people, because I believe that's a big part of it, so we can start making different choices, and so people know that we're still in this money system, which is absolutely not natural, but we keep encouraging things that are either beneficial or detrimental for the planet based on where we spend our money, right? Sometimes people talk about, oh, the towers are expensive. Well, have you ever done the math on how much you spend on technology over your lifetime on stuff that kills you? It's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars if you add it all up. Cell phone, subscription, internet subscription, the power, the electricity, all these different things, smart this, smart that, smart fridges, new phone, new iPad, new computer. I mean, think about it over your lifetime. How much money do we spend on things that don't only kill us, but also kill the people we love and our environment? Right. So as these new alternatives are coming, and it's inevitable. I mean, most of you know here that there's over 5,000 patents locked away of inventions that could totally transform our world, right? I think all these inventors, in a way, made the same mistake, applying for a patent, put it out open source. And I've met a lot of people that are like in the process of doing that now, and then they're not going to be able to put the fires out. Right. And then we can build these free energy devices. We can build other devices. And as people finding out about it, they're going to flock more towards that and having those solutions. That's how I really see the world change. The world's not going to change because of a politician or a CEO. No, they're all part of what's like going away. What is going to change the world is all of us. Right. And people that are working on these solutions, every one of us in our own field, and then people making a different choice and saying like, no, I'm no longer buying that or supporting that. We're going to go with this type of energy generation or whatever the solution is, whether it's healing. You see it now, all the alternative healing, right? Versus the pharmaceutical complex. The pharmaceutical complex, it's just going to collapse under its own weight, and they're going to try to force it on us. But too many people are waking up, and luckily, also like with the internet, also even though there's downfalls with the EMF, I mean, we're living in exciting times. I mean, if I have to look everything that I learned in the last year, because we can connect like this, I mean, it would have maybe taken 10 or 20 years without the internet. So I see all that shifting. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ari, did you still have a question?
I don't know. My first time here, so I don't want to run over it. If we have to end at 4, that's why I put my hand down.
You're good. Come on.
And y'all's questions are much higher level than mine, and so it's been such an amazing conversation. I'm going to dumb it down a minute just because I'm so new to the towers. And I think from listening to the water conversation, I was wondering if I needed to purchase like a wand or some kind of structuring device, or even the cube. And I know somebody, maybe Nico, it was you mentioning putting the cube, because a friend of mine wants me to get the cube so I can put my food in it and so I can start creating higher vibrations for the food. But is that all duplicative? If I get the tower, then I don't need to do the wand or the cube?
Yeah, so I think you're talking about the MLMA wand. That's what it sounds like, the cube. I'm not talking about the Lila cube. I'm actually was talking about the biogeometry cube to harmonize spaces. We have people that have the Lila cube also, right, and put their food in it. From what I've seen, they play well together. But yeah, the tower will structure the water in your home. And then we were only talking about when water's under pressure in pipes, right? When it's an unnatural state. But then the moment you open the faucet and it comes out, your water gets structured. And then what we've seen is people that put it in a container, when they let it sit out, it even the water quality even gets better, right? And the water even becomes more powerful. And one of the ways you can even shortcut that is that when you take the water, you just think or visualize your tower when you're looking at the glass. And I've noticed that then it's almost immediately it gets to like its most beneficial state.
Okay, that's awesome. And then like I do things like, because I don't have any devices yet, so I do things like, well, that's not true, I have crystals, so I'm like using crystals to structure it, and then I put it out in the sun, but I don't have to really do that anymore once I get a tower. That's basically right.
No, and then it's all it depends on what you're like into. Like for me, when you're excited about those things, I'll always like to experiment with it. I would see what makes it even better. That's not for everybody, right? But if that's your thing, absolutely play with it.
And then my next question is about, I haven't been able to figure out how to use it, but I got a Spooky 2, which is some kind of scalar
It's
energy.
arrive.
It's a right. Okay. So how does the tower, like I never really could figure out my Spooky 2, so it's sitting in a closet. So obviously it's not helping me. But how does the tower differentiate from? Is it using scalar energy, but it's just not doing it in the same technology or something?
Yeah, I have a Spooky too. I've had it long before I had my tower because I was into into Rive's technology. So for people that don't know about this, so Spooky 2 is one of like the more modern like Rive devices from Raymond Rive, where you basically apply particular frequencies to the body to where you're either gonna through resonance get rid of certain bacteria, maybe viruses, but you can also stimulate certain other processes in the body, and it's all frequency based, and it's not necessarily scalar, Mary. It depends what you hook up to it. Right. I mean, you can hook electrodes up to it that you hold, and then that current with a certain frequency is going to travel through your body. You can hook like what is it, like the infrared, like the things that you put in your nose up to it. You can also hook a scalar or a remote unit up to it, and that will, then send frequencies. You can even do it remotely. How it differentiates is that first off, like Rive, the machines are still like electricity based, right? And you're kind of forcing frequencies into the body that might be beneficial or might not be. Do not get me wrong. I think with Rive, there's been a lot of people that have healed like amazing things or saw disease reversal. Well, you really got to know what you're doing. The reason it's probably still in your closet is because you have to hook it up to your computer and you got to load the software, and then you have to be kind of like a computer geek slash nerd slash engineer for me to even hook the damn thing up and use it, let alone then how do you really figure out which frequencies that are beneficial for you and which that are detrimental. With what I know now, and I didn't know this back then, I would just go off of scouring all these forums and different manuals and different terrains. And, since I was a nerd, that was okay for me. But then, and I had some, some positive effects from it, but I didn't really know. But what I know now, like a decade later, I would test all of that, do subtle energy testing, maybe using biogeometry or another form of radiesthesia to figure out what's really beneficial for you. But also the Cosmic Tower, think of it as being more of like nature's way, right? And providing a harmonized environment. And because of that, your body already knows what to do. All healing is self-healing. It's in the body's it's in the body's intelligence. So the more of an internal healthy energetic environment or thoughts or emotions or life force, and an external, the environment that we live in, the more harmonious we get both environments, and then we get out of the way, the body can do its own thing. Right. So, and then as far as using a Rive while you have a Cosmic Tower, I think there might be certain side effects anytime you use electricity, and it's not harmonized on the subtle levels to where there might be some good, but also some detrimental effects. And then I think having a Cosmic Tower could help to harmonize or offset some of that. But if you're gonna use like the Rive technology, like really make sure you know what you're doing. Yeah, and when
You're
in
right.
doubt, I
That's why
would
it's in the
definitely.
closet.
Yeah, I totally get it.
I was scared of it. It didn't feel what I did put it on for like maybe 3 weeks. Like I tried something really little, like just to have it in my room to sleep, like to have it was like gonna do something with the EMFs to keep them away, the NNMEs. But after 3 weeks, it made me feel worse. So it's been in the closet for like 3 years for the same reason. And when
Yeah.
you talk about the tower, it just feels so much better. I mean, just your word, like it just feels better. So
I think the closer we get to nature, nature is the ultimate like intelligence, and the more we embody and the more we use nature principles, the better. And this is very much electricity based and electromagnetic, which for me is still in a way part of like the old world. And the more that I learn from people like Dr. Karim and like biogeometry, for me, the more the answers to the seen are in the unseen. They're in the subtle, and that's where the power is. So personally, I have much more, of an affinity towards like the subtle realms, because I believe what happens in the physical is not so much changed here. It's actually changed in the underlying subtle realms that actually form and that shape these physical and electromagnetic realms.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you to everybody for being here today. We love having these calls. We do them on the first Tuesday of every month. We'll be back here next month, and we invite you to join and to bring friends and to continue to talk about these type of topics. It's really fun to see how many people are engaging in their personal levels and, using the biogeometry and the towers and their intention and the water, and that it feels like we're strengthening. So appreciate you guys showing up. There's a stronger energy this time. So thank you for being here. I just asked y'all to unmute if you want to have your voice be heard and say goodbye. Thank you for being here.
Thank you,
Thank
Nico.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
everyone.
Thank you guys. Enjoyed
Thank
it
you.
so much.